Week 8 is officially under wraps, and today I'll be bringing forth my top waiver wire ads entering Week 9 of fantasy football. It is crunch time. You guys need to clinch your playoff spots, and there are a couple names on today's wire that are going to be helping you out going forward. A lot of bye weeks coming up. We need to backfill our depth, so make sure you do so and get active. But if you guys enjoy, make sure you leave a like down below. Comment your biggest waiver wire decisions. I'll try to get to as many as possible. And of course, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 40,000. I appreciate you guys for that continued support. But with that being said, let's get into it. All right, before I get into my official top 10, I'm going to go through the players that should be rostered in your league, but if they are available, they would have found their way on today's video. Chuba Hubbard, running back of the Carolina Panthers. He just flat out is now the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers. He dominated usage, got all the early down work, got all the 2-minute work. He was treated as the bell cow running back for this team this past week. 45 snaps compared to 12 from Miles Sanders. He's been more efficient than Miles Sanders all year, and if he gets this opportunity share, he will be a top 25 back for me moving forward. Darrell Henderson, running back of the LA Rams, very, very similar situation, is officially the starting running back for the LA Rams. Dominated the usage in terms of this offense. And until Kyren Williams comes back, I do think he is the RB1 for Los Angeles. Amari DiMarcado, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Again, very similar case to Darrell Henderson and to Chuba Hubbard. He got the lion's share of the work, and until James Conner comes back, I think he has top 30 running back utility. Romeo Doubs, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, caught a touchdown in this game, commanded 9 targets, and in his games this year, he has 5 separate games with over double-digit PPR points. He's a really nice bench option, really nice depth option, and through bye week apocalypse that we will be seeing in these next few weeks, he will help you get over the hump. He should be rostered in your league. Again, he's rostered in 68% of leagues, but if he is available, he's a very fine stash play. Next up, we do have Quentin Johnson, wide receiver of the LA Chargers. Had his big-time performance on Sunday Night Football, 5 receptions, 50 yards. I am a little bit curious to see just exactly how that split looks moving forward when Josh Palmer is expected to be more healthy. He had a DMP, and a limited practice last week, played a little bit sparingly on Sunday Night Football. I'm interested to see exactly what that hierarchy will look like, but at the end of the day, it is a very positive sign that Quentin Johnson went out there and had a good game. Next up, we have Jake Ferguson, tight end of the Dallas Cowboys. He's involved in this offense, caught a touchdown in this game, seam ball from Dak Prescott, and this Dallas Cowboys offense looks a lot better this week, especially from the passing perspective. If Jake Ferguson is going to continue being this involved, I think he is a top 15 option moving forward. Again, should be rostered, but if he's available, he can help you if you waited at the tight end position. And then finally, Dalton Kincaid, tight end of the Buffalo Bills. He is a must-roster type of player. He's a top 8 tight end for me the rest of the season. He is rostered in 72% of the leagues, but again, if he is somehow available, you potentially have access to the number 2 target for Josh Allen moving forward. But now we move on to the official list, starting off with my number 10, Demario Pop Douglas of the New England Patriots, a guy I'd be willing to spend up to, 0 to 5% of my fab on. And Douglas played his most snaps of the season this past week, and with Kendrick Bourne out for the season with a torn ACL, he now has the chance to be exactly that for a team that needs weapons. While I do reiterate that you shouldn't bid up on Douglas because really how valuable is this role in this Pats passing attack, but a rookie showing number 1 type of ability will always pique my interest. I don't trust him in my lineup right away. If you do pick him up, I do not want to throw him in my lineup in week 9, but it is positive to see that he's getting the snaps. He's looking pretty good, and while this offense has major question marks, I don't mind him as a depth, wide receiver 5-6 type of option for 0 to 5% of my fab, number 10 pickup of the week. Number 9 is going to be Will Levis, quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, a guy I'd be willing to spend, 5 to 10% of my fab on, and this was a phenomenal debut game for Levis against the Falcons, nearly 250 yards from scrimmage, 4 passing touchdowns in this game, and he looked much more pro-ready than I anticipated him coming into the season. In a 1-quarterback redraft league, I don't think the priority is quite there to bid, 15, 20, 25+% of your fab. But for a quarterback-needy team that wants to take a shot on an impressive young quarterback, I think Will Levis is a nice get. Rocket arm, mobility, and if you did wait at the quarterback position, I don't mind stashing him right now just to see just how valuable he can be moving forward on the season. Again, there's still question marks on this offense. I'm still really not sold that Levis is going to continue this on a week-to-week basis, but at the end of the day, If you want to get him as your quarterback too, stash him through the bye weeks. I think he has a lot of upside moving forward. Number 8 is going to be Jayden Reed, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 5 to 10% of my fab on. And he put together his 4th game of double-digit PPR points in his rookie season. He's established himself as the clear-cut slot receiver for this Green Bay Packers team, and he ran 88% of the Packers routes this week. While, like I mentioned with Romeo Dubs, that the Green Bay offense has been a mess as of late, I do think that Jayden Reed has proven that he is a good player, and I expect the Packers to be better at football moving forward. While he probably does have a limited ceiling given the situation he has with the Green Bay Packers, I do think that Jayden Reed provides a good depth wide receiver in PPR weeks through bye weeks, and he does have the untapped upside, again, being a young, efficient rookie wide receiver, where come the playoff weeks, he could provide you a league-winning type of advantage. Marvin Mims, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 5 to 10% of my fab on, pending the news on today's trade deadline. If you're watching this, I'm recording it prior to the deadline. We don't exactly know the statuses of both Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, but there is very heavy buzz right now that the Denver Broncos are going to trade one or both of these wide receivers. And while Mims is a complete implied upside play, like if you're watching this and the Broncos didn't trade any of those guys, I wouldn't be going to pick up Mims. If they do trade one of those guys, Mims now has the opportunity to be a full-time wide receiver. Good wide receiver profile, second-round pick, has been efficient when he's gotten the opportunity this year. It's really just an implied upside play because if they trade both of these guys, I can see him being the number 1 pickup of the week. Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 5 to 10% of my fab on. And Mingo put together his most complete game as a pro this week, leading the Panthers in snaps, and he established himself as the number 2 target in this offense after Adam Thielen. And it was really encouraging to see Mingo put this together after his bye week. And with the way Bryce Young has looked recently, the upside of this offense moving forward is higher than I initially anticipated. Mingo's getting the routes, is a young day 2 pick, and Bryce Young has attempted nearly 36 passing attempts per game this year. There's plenty of volume. Obviously, we know Adam Thielen's going to get his, 8 to 12 targets a game. But if Mingo continues displaying this level of upside, I think he can establish himself as the clear-cut number 2 read for this team. Number 5 pickup of the week is going to be Taysom Hill, tight end of the New Orleans Saints, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 10% of my fab on. And the caveat here is that if your platform allows you to play Taysom Hill at tight end, this is why he's a pickup. If you can only play quarterback or if you can only play another position, I don't pick him up. But the fact that he has tight end eligibility specifically on Sleeper makes him a big-time pickup. Because the reason why I want to pick up Taysom Hill is that he has an opportunity to impact the game in 3 separate ways any given week, as a runner, as a receiver, or potentially as a passer if anything were to happen to Derek Carr. The implied upside any given week at a tight end position that needs bodies with an elite upside is tremendous. I mean, this guy showed these past couple weeks the level of ceiling he has because of his rushing work, because of, the implied upside. Again, like I said, if Derek Carr were to miss time, he can have, 20 plus passing attempts in a single game. Taysom Hill is the biggest wild card in fantasy football, and I do think he needs to be rostered, especially given these next couple weeks with a lot of the tight ends on bye, Sam Laporta and George Kittle this week. If you need a tight end too that has elite upside that can win you a week without one of those guys, I think Taysom Hill is one of the few options that has that ability on the waiver wire this week. Number 4 is Michael Wilson, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 10 to 15% of my fab on. And Wilson is a full-time receiver for the Cardinals. He's played over 80% of their snaps, and he's running nearly all of their routes in these last 3 games. It's expected that quarterback Josh Dobbs will be moved at the deadline. There was reports that Gannon literally said that Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray will start for them this week. And this is really good news, in my opinion, for Kyler's return to the field if they're trading Josh Dobbs. And it tells me that they intend to have him as the starter when he is ready to go and ready when he's recovered from that knee injury from last year. This would be a huge boost to the offense if Kyler Murray is the quarterback. And for a rookie wide receiver that's performed well all year, having that top 15 quarterback that I do think Kyler Murray represents would be a massive upgrade for this offense. Once Murray is in at quarterback, I think Wilson has wide receiver 3+ level upside in fantasy, and you can probably get him pretty cheap because he hasn't had a big-time blow-up game. Number 3 is Roschon Johnson, running back of the Chicago Bears, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 15 to 20% of my fab on. And Roschon Johnson returned to the Bears after his concussion issues these last couple weeks, and he led them in snaps and routes run out of the backfield. And it's a little muddy right now in Chicago with Darrington Evans also involved in the fold, but I do expect with another week of a healthy Johnson and Foreman in this backfield that it should be a 2-headed committee. Young running back that's been efficient when he's gotten the opportunity this year. And the implied value here is that if he does take over this backfield, whether it's through injury or whether it's through just him outplaying Deontay Foreman, he has league-winning upside down the stretch. So if you can get him for 15 to 20% of your fab, I think he is a must pickup this week. Number 2 pickup of the week is going to be Leonard Fournette, running back newly of the Buffalo Bills, a guy I'd be willing to spend upwards of 15 to 20% of my fab on. And some of you watching right now are probably going to wonder, why are you talking about Leonard Fournette? Like, he just got picked up off the street. He's not a very good player. The last time we saw him in Tampa Bay. Why do you want Leonard Fournette on your team? And I get that, man. This is a projection and not everyone is going to like it. But at the end of the day, this was the perfect spot for Leonard Fournette to land. The Bills have been giving Latavius Murray 40+% of the snaps and 40+% of the rushing attempts on this team. It's clear that they're seeking that power back between the tackles that can get carries on the goal line that they simply lost when Damian Harris got hurt. And Fournette absolutely fills that need. While he isn't in his prime, he's not in his Jacksonville Jaguars days where he was a full bell cow type of running back. A 40+% snap share on the Bills alone would be worth a running back 3 status. And with implied RB2 value should Cook ever go down. So with Leonard Fournette, although he kind of feels gross, he kind of feels disgusting, you don't want to pick him up, this was the absolute nuts range of outcomes. Because while Fournette, like I said, isn't a world beater, he's tough. He can play all 3 downs. And like I said, we saw Latavius Murray get 50+% of the long down and distance snaps for this Bills team. They don't trust James Cook in terms of pass blocking. Leonard Fournette can get those types of snaps. And while it's gross, 15 to 20% should Cook ever miss time could end up looking like a steal a few weeks down the line. And now moving on to the number 1 pickup of the week, and coming as no surprise if you watch Sunday football, we got the young tight end himself, Trey Mcbride of the Arizona Cardinals, a guy I'd be willing to spend 20 to 25% of my fab on. And I think he is a priority pickup this week. He dominated the usage for the Cardinals. He put up the most expected half PPR points of the season, and he ran 88% of the Cardinals' routes during this big game. Mentioned this with Michael Wilson, but with Kyler Murray coming back, this offense has untapped potential moving forward, and I think McBride has the opportunity to be a league winner at tight end down the stretch. If you're weak at tight end, feel free to bid even more than 25%, but overall, I think he is the clear-cut number 1 pickup of the week, and a pickup that even if you have a solidified tight end, I would go out and secure because I do think he's going to hold a ton of trade value entering the trade deadline for your leagues in the coming weeks. But either way, if you guys enjoyed, like I said, make sure you leave a like down below, comment your biggest waiver wire decision. I'll try to get to as many as possible. And of course, hit the subscribe button. We are on the road to 40,000. Appreciate you guys. But with that being said, peace out. Go win your matchups.